It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back, everybody. You're still opening up with S3 on your Feel Good Breakfast show. Of course, April marks Stress Awareness Month, and stress and anxiety have been on the rise. Yes, let's take a deep breath in. It has been on the rise since the COVID-19 pandemic, only naturally so. But people are anxious than ever before. They are faced with demanding schedules, high expectations, just to name a few. And of course, family therapist and social worker, good friend of ours, Talya Ressel, joins us this morning to share some very important tools to help you deal with this prevalent issue in society. And it's so good to have you with us, because I feel like the last time we had you was just before the hard lockdowns. We were not feeling so much stress and so much anxious as we are now.
Yes, now we're a little bit battle weary. We've been in it for a good year, and the finish line is not quite as close as we thought. Exactly.
It keeps moving.
Exactly.
Boy, a lot has changed since the last time we saw you. And I suppose we need to look at this from two different angles, because it seems like there are two different layers to this. And I need you maybe to define stress, because there are stressful situations, stressful things going on that are impacting us, and then a state of anxiety, which seems to be something quite different. How would you define those two?
Okay, so stress and anxiety are both normal, appropriate feelings. We're supposed to have them. It's just, when are they supposed to come? So stress comes typically when there's stressful external events, things happening, COVID, job issues, children, outside events, and then we react to them. And when those events settle, then we settle. So it's appropriate. Anxiety happens when it's now that there's not necessarily an external thing, it's something internal that's happening. So even when things have calmed down, we're still feeling you can't turn it off. Exactly. And while anxiety is good for when we're in a state of danger, if we need to
fight or flight.
Exactly. But sitting at home when you're not facing danger and you're still feeling that distress, that's anxiety.
And you're obviously working in the forefront of this right now. Everyone is either feeling stressed or anxious. What are you witnessing during this period and the space that we're in right now?
How are we doing? Yeah.
We
Blink
are...
twice if you're not okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. We are not okay. I mean, to some degree, there's been a good level of resilience that we are seeing. But on the other hand, it's as if when I was here last time at the beginning, we all braced, like when they say the plane is going down, and we all braced, and then we carried on bracing, and it was like, is it coming, is it not coming? And this extended level of distress and hypervigilance has led to us feeling burnt out and exhausted and afraid to do things and unsure. Every decision was, should we do this? Should we go here? Do you wear a mask? Do you do this? Do you send your child here?
How are my kids handling it?
Exactly. What do I do for my child? Like all these things. So we are tired and we are overwhelmed and we're not sleeping very well.
Yeah.
As we were saying.
Massive impact. I think we forget. I mean, two of the people closest to me in my world aren't able to sleep despite trying everything at the moment. And I think also we thought new year, breath of fresh air, everything will be okay. Straight back into exactly the same reality. You mentioned the word resilience. People have been surviving. People have adjusted. I've found a new way. I think everyone has kind of adjusted. I hate to use the word the new normal, but we have been able to find a way. But the finish line isn't in sight. And as we pointed out, it's still moving. We still don't know when we're going to be in the clear.
Exactly.
So why is it so important to have that conversation now, to talk about this now?
Because we are reaching critical levels of anxiety and stress among especially young people. Without that finish line, we were kind of holding on for the end of 2020. Let's just get through this and then we'll be okay. And we saw what happened in December as we got hit with that second wave. And I think people just are struggling to hang on anymore. They are struggling to find the reserve to carry on. So we're seeing really high levels of anxiety. And we need to talk about it because there is still the stigma. Mental health, we still are not so comfortable saying, I need help. Yeah. I'm not doing okay. And so that's why this conversation, especially for young people who have really, really had a rough time, because they don't have...
Imagine going through matric.
Totally. And they don't have a sense of perspective. So, this is a big deal right now for them. That they can't get that idea, it will pass. But they've lost out on so many opportunities. They don't want to be sitting at home with their family. They're supposed to be out there in the world. And we've actually said, no, the world is unsafe. Stay stay nuclear, as we use that word, stay insular.
It's okay not to be okay. That's the bottom line. The whole world is experiencing this together, and we are certainly sharing this experience, and possibly there is an opportunity to grow that we've never had before. How do we deal with the stress? Well, that is what we're going to talk about next. Whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you have a family or not, we're going to be giving you some coping mechanisms to deal with this COVID fatigue, and we'll continue the conversation with Talya in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us and rejoining a very important conversation. Earlier in the show, we spoke about the increase in that state of anxiety among children and adults, teens. Everyone has been affected by the coronavirus pandemic in some way. We're continuing our conversation now with family therapist, social worker, and good friend Talya Ressel. I normally mess up your first name. Now I thought I'd mess
That's
up your
okay.
last name. You're Tulls to us now. You're
there we go.
Tully baby. That's what we're going to call you. Thanks so much for joining us. I would imagine for you, you've had to take on quite a massive load now because you're dealing with this and your own stress and everybody else's stress. But when it comes to our kids, that's when it becomes the most intense for me. How do we help children, and in particular teens, who I think have probably gone through the most over this last year? What is the answer for helping them deal with not just the stressful situations, but that anxiety, as you pointed out?
Yes. So I think, absolutely, first we've got to understand that for teens, why it's been so hard is because their natural development is to separate. They're supposed to pull away from the family unit.
Independent.
Exactly, and find the social unit.
Yeah.
And we cut that off almost completely. You know, there was no school and socializing was frowned upon. I mean, under hard lockdown, they were stuck at home. So they've really taken strain, and they, as I said earlier, they don't have perspective. They can't see that this will
They can't reference
pass.
it against something else.
Exactly. Things are,
Okay.
and things with our teens feel so intense because they feel them so intensely. That's why when we can go, you know what, like you'll do it another time, for them it is such a loss. And so one way we can help them is by acknowledging what they're going through. To help, I always encourage the teens to have some structure. So it feels so silly, but actually when we're feeling stressed and anxiety and anxious, to have no structure to the day actually feeds that sense of uncertainty. So break your day down into, okay, what are you going to do this morning? And then, okay, right now, what are you going to do this afternoon? So you don't have the big picture. I encourage kids, I know that we've done so much online, and that's been amazing to be connected, but you can't live online. And you do need to actually see other human faces and get fresh air.
Exercise.
Listen, I know, but it doesn't even have to be strenuous exercise.
No, for sure, yeah. No,
Just,
I mean,
just move your body.
having that taken away from me with the back operation, I didn't realize how much of an outlet that is to relieve that physical stress.
Well,
energy.
because with stress and anxiety, your body gears up for fight, flight, or freeze. So you get this adrenaline going. And so if you don't do anything and you just sit there and you're playing Fortnite, where you're getting even more anxiety going, more adrenaline, it's just coursing through your veins with nothing to do except make your thoughts spin. So rather walk it off or jog it. Well, don't even have to jog. Walk it off.
Run, man. You're young, you can run. Go do it.
Here's the thing, we're speaking about the children and also why they need so much attention now during this space, but let's take a step back. What about the parents? How do we, deal with it? How do we deal with our children as well in this space? Because obviously they're anxious, they're stressed, but we are 10 times more stressed.
How do I support my partner?
How do you support them in this space as well?
Yes. Well, you put your mask on first, in the sense. So you've got to manage your own stress and anxiety around that. Look, it will be normal and it's appropriate to speak to your child about some of your stresses. You don't have to hide it completely, because you want to model to your child, I also get stressed, this is how I manage it.
Process it, yeah.
Exactly, you're giving them some tools. Then I would say to parents, do not say, don't be worried, everything's going to be fine. That doesn't help. Rather say, would you like me to, do you want to talk to me about it? And don't throw out solutions. Ask your child, do you want me just to listen, or do you want me to help you come up with how to handle that? So that can be helpful for the child to process it with somebody else. And I think with parents to understand that these are intense times. There was no manual for this, so you're going to get it wrong. We're all getting it wrong. But it's in how we repair that that's really helpful for our children.
Are we going to bring up a social comment? We've been asking our viewers to weigh in as well, and I'd love to see what they've been saying. But I'm going to ask you, just as we start to round off the conversation, is there a silver lining? Are we going to be better people as a result of this one giant shared experience?
You know, I think it's going to be like with everything, where there are gains and there are losses. And I think there have been huge gains. I can see it in my own, my children's resilience. In some things that I thought that would floor them, they've just gotten on with it. And then there's been other losses that we I think are going to struggle to come to terms with for a long time. But is there a silver lining? I think we always have to try and focus on that, because otherwise it can get too depressing to just focus on the losses.
For sure. We got that comment right now on the screen. It's from Nkosi. It says, it was really hard, but my wife, we tried to make them understand if you want to go outside, you have to stay inside. So weighed in on that conversation as well. We have another one from Ruqayya Shabudeen saying, good morning. It was a bit difficult at first, especially for my 3-year-old, especially adapting to a mask and sanitizing all the time and not being able to go out. But I think my kids adapted very well, much better than I expected, and I'm proud of them because they comply over 90% of the time, and they remember the basics of wearing a mask, sanitizing and distancing. At 3 years old, this is what we had to introduce.
Well, completely, and it's just bizarre that President Cyril Ramaphosa is known as Mr. Corona to my 3-year-old, because we would obviously have to watch every time. But that's, I mean, at first it was the granola virus, and then it became the coronavirus. But I have to echo what our viewers are saying, is I'm so proud of how my kids have adapted. You talk about that resilience. Children, above all else, are strong, resilient, and they have powerful emotions, and I think we need to remember that.
Yes.
Just because they are young, it doesn't mean they are feeling it any less. As a teenager, you probably have the most powerful emotions that you'll experience in your life, so stay cognizant of that, but put your mask on first. Look after yourself. Thank you so much. I feel actually a lot better after just having just a moment, so I would suggest you do that. If you need help, speak to a professional, someone who has the tool set to be able to help you. Thank you so much.